We'll start in like 4 or 5 minutes.
You want that door shut?
Yeah, that'd be good. All right, well, hopefully this works. Like I said, I've not used this computer for the entire setup. Says we're good.
Missing you. All right.
Works. For anyone currently joining us, thanks for being with us this morning. We are going to get started in about 2 minutes. Once again, if you're on the stream, thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. If you're on the stream, thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started in about another minute. We'll give it about another minute and we'll get started. You know what? It's 9:30. We're going to start on time today. Here we go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday morning. Welcome to the Going Broadway podcast. I am Alex. Cole's with me today. T.O. to be determined. TOTBH. That's what we'll call it. Cole, what's happening?
Oh, it was a great week in wrestling, and I am excited to talk about it.
It was a great night in wrestling last night. We kind of talked about it before we went on the air. Just because there's so much that happens in between our Monday and Thursday shows, I think Thursdays are going to be more of a high-level recap rather than, doing a deep dive, just because that would take the entire show. But that being said, like you said, it's been a great week in wrestling, especially last night. So we'll just start right off the top. I remembered to do it this time. Victory number 1. So let's start with AEW. So they started off the program with the Moxley and which is it, Santana or Ortiz?
It was against Ortiz.
It was Ortiz. Okay. So like I said, we're just going to kind of do a high level. We're not going to go into details of the match itself. And admittedly, I've only watched bits and pieces of AEW to this point. I've not watched any of NXT. I told Cole before we went on, ironically enough, I watched some of Raw last Monday, but I don't recall in detail. Hopefully whenever I pull up the results page as we go through it, it'll kind of ring some bells. But basically the thing with Moxley and Ortiz, Moxley obviously gets the win because they're not going to have him lose. And then they do the eye for an eye thing where Moxley basically takes the keys from the car. What kind of car was it? I don't remember. It was a Ford something.
Yeah, I don't remember what the
anyway,
car was.
the in reality, it's actually Shad Khan's car. Did you know that?
You said what?
So the car that they've been using for this build or whatever, Jericho says, I'm going to give you this car. The car that they're using is actually Shad Khan's car.
Huh.
Yeah. That being said, he takes the keys from that, jabs it into Ortiz's eye. The inner circle runs down. Moxley goes out to the crowd. And I thought it was a good start to the show from what I've seen. Again, I've just watched bits and pieces, not the whole thing, but it seemed like it was a good start to the show. And I kind of like that format in terms of you start the show off with some of your stars. You don't just open it up with a mid-card match or whatever. If you do that every so often, not a big deal. But I think that's how you should start off a show. Start with your main card guys, build to whatever you're building towards, and they successfully did that. So then you had the tag match with Chuck Taylor and Trent, best friends with Orange Cassidy, which I still think that's the most... Orange Cassidy is like the most underrated and maybe even underappreciated gimmick in wrestling today. I will admit, at first I was just kind of like, I didn't hate it, but it was just kind of, I had to warm up to it. But once I did, I mean, it's funny, it's hilarious, and I get it for the people that don't like it or don't appreciate it, especially like the wrestling purists, which I actually consider myself to be one. Nonetheless, the match itself, again, just to reiterate, I've just watched bits and pieces of AEW last night. Didn't watch much of this, but I know that there were some spots where the crowd was into it. There's a "This is awesome" chant going. Inevitably, Kazari and Scorpio Sky get the win, and they've actually announced that on a future episode of Dynamite, it might be next week's show.
Next week, yeah.
They're getting their tag title rematch. We'll stay on this for just a second. So, where do you think they're going with this? Because they're kind of interweaving talent in terms of their storylines and matches. So they've set up a match with Pac and Omega, a Iron Man match for. That's not next week, is it? That's I think that's the Wednesday before Revolution. I think that's what the date was. if they're having an Omega and Pac match, not at Revolution, which is what I thought they were going to be doing, does this mean, do you think they're going to keep the belts on Omega and Hangman Page, have them defend it at the pay-per-view, and that's when they're going to do their split? They'll drop the tag belts at Revolution, and then that's when they'll do their...
It's so hard because the tease of the Hangman turn is just so high right now. Like, even after last night's episode, I know you said you didn't watch a ton, but like, you know, the tease of it all was just, I don't even know how to put it. Like, it just showed so much, like him trying to take it into his own hands. You know, him costing them the 8-man tag match. Like, it just, it's just such a high tease right now that I feel like at some point you can't overbuild it. And so I don't know if it's going to be next week. Like, it wouldn't shock me if SCU and them win it if they do the turn next week. The problem that I have with that is that you want that turn to lead right into a Hangman Kenny Omega storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you can't do that effectively by then putting him in an Iron Man match that needs to kind of wrap up or finish a storyline with Pac.
So do you think that they might speed up this, not heel turn or whatever you want to call it, but basically Page breaking away from Omega and the Young Bucks? Do you think they speed this up and maybe have a Hangman Page and Omega match at Revolution?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that wouldn't shock me if they were to go ahead and have them turn on each other next week. The problem is that you gotta decide, do you want Hangman Page to be involved in that Kenny Omega Pac match?
Right.
Because if once Hangman becomes full out heel, which to me it looks like he's going to be an over heel, like the crowd's still going to be behind him and love him,
which is good for booking. I mean,
oh yeah, and so I'm kind of at this place where like you got to decide, do you want him to ruin that match or cost Kenny that match, which then sets up their match at Revolution? I could see that, but then I feel like you're getting robbed of a Pac and Kenny Omega spot fest. You know what I mean?
Potentially. Brandon Randall, thanks for joining us this morning. He sent us a comment. He says they're going to send him to rehab for alcohol abuse, and when he comes back, he will turn on Omega. I like it.
Plot twist,
exactly. So after the match, the Dark Order comes out. They do their brawl. Orange Cassidy, in his normal demeanor, whatever you want to call it, does this whole hands in the pockets thing, but then just gets beat down. You know that a gimmick is over whenever the guy, literally, his gimmick is doing nothing, and it elicits a crowd response almost every time, and a loud one at that. So then Christopher Daniels comes out, makes the save, and then that's pretty much the end of the segment.
So they keep teasing this Dark Order Exalted one, and I just can't put my finger on where it's going.
Where they're going with it exactly. I agree.
It looks like it's such a big build for something that can't be minor. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. I mean, the payoff for this better be good. Otherwise, you've just ruined your gimmick. Again, going back to, we mentioned this a few shows prior to this one, but I really think they were, and actually this has been confirmed by a couple of the, I guess, higher level wrestling, I don't know what you want to call it, like not necessarily like, not Meltzer specifically, but guys like him, a couple of guys that are well known in the wrestling dirt sheets, I guess you'd call it, have actually confirmed that Marty Scurll was the original planned leader of the Dark Order, which is what I thought to begin with before he signed with Ring of Honor. Now, you can still have a better payoff than some other guys. Like, I don't think you have Brody Lee do it. I don't think he's a big enough name. Again, we're not going to spend too much time on this because we talked about this in prior shows. the only person that makes sense if you want it to get over is Matt Hardy. If they go the route of Matt Hardy, when did you say his contract was up?
What I read was March. So
it could be relatively soon.
Yeah. So the only thing I'm confused on is this, and this is a lot of maybes right now. There's just maybes in the air of the two or three people we could imagine. What happens if none of those guys sign? You know what I mean? Like, are they too far into this gimmick that they can't let the ball drop on it, so they got to find somebody to put there? Because right now it looks to me like Christopher Daniels could be the actual guy.
I mean,
it looks like one of those like plot twist, like typical wrestling storylines where it's the most unlikely candidate, like he's seeking out himself, like trying to throw everybody off. You know, I don't know. I just, at what point do you stop waiting on maybes? You know what I mean? Like Matt Hardy would be a maybe. Marty Scurll, why would you base your whole storyline on a maybe?
Exactly. I mean, I can see the route they went if they were going to have Marty Scurll come in. Just, if I'm Cody and the Young Bucks and Omega, knowing the history that I've got with with Christopher Daniels with being the elite stuff. Wow, that's not what I meant. I'm gonna back up, rewind. If I'm Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and I have that relationship with Marty Scurll in the past, it's almost like a given.
JR is the leader of the Dark Order. Brandon, you're funny, man. That's funny.
Wait.
It's me, Austin. It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
Plot twist. It's Vince McMahon.
I've been waiting for a good time to play that soundbite, and it just like, yes, that's it. But no, so I can get it if they set up the Dark Order thinking that Marty Scurll is going to come in and sign. I don't know what happened behind the scenes with those guys. Maybe no one ever will, but
that was funny.
I don't know if you. To me, it just seems like the storyline is too progressed that it's just like, okay, well, this isn't going the way we want it. We'll just drop it unless they have some kind of gimmick match that says, okay, we'll have a match with whoever the two main guys are. I don't even remember their names because it's just like
it doesn't matter.
It's just the Dark Order.
It doesn't matter.
But whoever the two main guys are that started this whole thing, if let's say they have a tag match and say if you lose this tag match, then you and the Dark Order have to disband or whatever. That's the only way I can see them getting rid of this gimmick. And if they do go that route, then that tells me that any plan that AEW had as their Dark Order leader just fell flat. So, they need to do something with old Ray Ray. Do you know what that means?
Oh, he's talking about WWE.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about Rey Mysterio.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, and we'll get to WWE in a little bit. Hey, your mom is here.
Oh, hi, Mom. Look, I made it.
So yeah, as far as that gimmick goes, we'll see what happens. But unless you've got Matt Hardy, I don't think it really works with anybody. You might prolong it with a Brody Lee, or you might prolong it with a Christopher Daniels, but I don't think it lasts. I think it's just going to have so much disappointment from the fan base that it's not going to work.
It would be like an Aces and 8 build-up.
Exactly.
You think it's going to be dope, and then you get Bubba Ray.
Yeah, exactly. So then the next match, the only thing I wanted to mention about the next match, so it's Britt Baker and I'm terrible at names. Yuka Sakazaki. There we go. The only thing I want to point out is Britt Baker takes the L.
Yeah, but that was just to get her more over as a heel.
I get it.
She rips her teeth. I mean, we haven't seen her really do heel-like things other than promos that were terrible. So now you see her rip someone's tooth out and comes out like this evil dentist. You know what I mean? Like, It was just to get her over more as a heel and to be feared. I don't think it hurt her in any way.
Oh no, I don't think it hurt her. It was just as kind of a surprise thing where it's like, wow.
It was also good to keep us on our feet.
Exactly.
You know, because going into that match, you and I probably both would have said the same thing. Oh well, that's going to be Britt Baker getting put over, and it wasn't.
Right.
At least not the way we thought.
And then they do the thing where, like you said, she, like, as if her teeth got knocked out with, blood coming out and everything. What's really funny, kind of a side note, there's a website I was on last night in looking at, just kind of a good results page to kind of go off of. Somebody mentioned, so she did a curb stomp basically, which is Seth Rollins' move. Whoever wrote the article on this page basically said, Britt Baker takes a page out of her boyfriend's playbook by doing the curb stomp. I'm like, you kind of got the wrong wrestler there. Like, whoever wrote this does not know real life relationships, apparently. By the way, Britt Baker's with Adam Cole, for those of you listening, not Seth Rollins.
What?
Spoiler. So then they set up that sets up the 8-man tag match. Unfortunately, I've not actually watched any of this tag match. I'm looking forward to going back and watching it.
It was good.
I've heard it was a very good match. In fact, I read someone say on social media that this has been by far their favorite AEW match, which tells me if you have any sort of a tag match, whether it's standard tag, 6-man, 8-man, whatever, you have to have some really good, not just ring action, but good ring psychology to make this work, because you can only watch some of it at a time, especially if you've got all eight guys going at it at the same time. Inevitably, at the end of the match, Phoenix basically got the pin on Hangman Page. Now, again, I've not watched this match. Cole, how did this end? Because this basically just says he sneaks a pin out of nowhere on Hangman Page.
The whole match is all set up, in my opinion, to really sell the Page turn more. Like, you just see first of all, the Elite came out together. So
Right.
So Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, or not Hangman Page, Omega and the Young Bucks came out together, and then Hangman Page comes out, and they're separated. They're not united. Throughout the match, there's several points where, like, there's a point in the match where Omega and the Young Bucks are celebrating the ring, and Hangman Page is just sitting off on the apron, almost looking mad that they're celebrating, almost looking mad that they're united and they've, like, forgotten him still. And then they fast forward, then all those guys enter the ring, and then Hangman Page jumps in and helps them out. And so basically the match is Hangman Page tries to take it on to his own, accord pretty much, and tries to win the match himself, and it ends up costing them. And then they do a little promo afterwards with the Young Bucks and Page, like, hey, what's your problem, man? Like,
Right.
what's going on? Then they said, if you keep acting like that, you're going to lose those next week, and pointed at the belt.
Yeah, I'm just gonna reply to your mom live on the air real quick. We are gonna talk old school wrestling at some point, to some degree.
Did you see my comment?
Yeah, and it's too late. No, I agree. I consider myself an old school wrestling fan as well. The Von Erichs and world class Texas wrestling, and that kind of feels like how wrestling is now. There's so much to choose from, like there was in the 80s. In the 80s you had WWF and NWA, World Class Championship Wrestling. You had AWA. You still had some of the territories, and now it's kind of the same thing. You've got a lot to choose from. There's so much content out there. So definitely a good time to be a wrestling fan. So then you've got Pac and Omega setting up their match.
And Nyla Rose and Riho too. Like, it was almost like a dual promo, which I
Yeah.
thought was cool that they did it that way, because it gave both of them just a quick second to set the match up.
Yep. And then you had the Kip Sabian Joey Janela match.
I'm already over it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm like, and I don't know why it was such a deep card match.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they're both. Don't get me wrong, they're both talented, but the storyline in general is just not good.
It's not there. I mean, Kip Sabian is actually a really good in-ring worker. We actually, Cole, myself, and our buddy Austin went to Dynamite back in December in Champaign, and they actually had Omega and Sabian as an AEW dark match that we got to watch live. It's not often that, and I shouldn't phrase this in such a way that make it sound like I've been to a bunch of wrestling events live, because I haven't, but I know a wrestling match is good if it gets my attention live at the event, especially whenever we're not sitting close to the ring. I mean, we had decent seats, but they weren't like ringside seats by any means. And again, I thought that was a good match. I think Kip Sabian is great at, not just from an in-ring talent standpoint, but also in-ring psychology and storytelling. And I wouldn't be surprised if inevitably, if and hopefully when AEW brings a mid-card title on, if they give Kip Sabian a run with that.
They're just pushing the storyline like a Matt, Lita, and Edge kind of mentality. Like we care that Joey Janela broke up with Penelope Ford. Like that was something we knew about. Couldn't tell you who Penelope Ford is.
Before AEW, I couldn't either.
Like I didn't know that her and Kip Sabian were together. I couldn't have told you that her and Joey Janela were together before. Like none of that stuff made any sense to me. So I'm behind on the storyline, and now you're wanting me to care about it, and I just don't.
Yeah. I'm going to fast forward to the closing segment, which was in my opinion, one of the best wrestling segments from start to finish I've seen in a long time. I mean, it didn't drag on, and it wasn't rushed either. So I'm referring to the MJF Cody segment where Cody gets 10 lashes literally with the belt. And this is one of those things where, so many people still think, well, wrestling's fake, blah, 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 blah. Hang on just one second. Cole, did you go off camera at one point?
No, I'm like on my screen on Facebook here. It shows me on camera. I saw that earlier and I was like, I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, did we freeze up?
Your screen just might be frozen there. It looks like you're not moving at all either.
Is yours going though? Okay. So
yeah, we're good.
Okay, so we're still good. Cool. So I'm not gonna worry about it then. But basically, MJF gives Cody 10 lashes with the belt, and this is not something you can fake. This is not something you can, rehearse or.
Oh, the marks tell you that.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are, live as you're watching it, there are welts on Cody's back, and he did a posted a photo to social media, or somebody did after the show had ended, and it was nasty. I mean, he legit took 10 lashes, and they were hard
with his belt. I mean,
yeah.
You can't fake.
No. I mean, there's nothing you can do to. Again, I keep reusing this word, but there's nothing you can do to fake that. Like, you can't.
I noticed they were smart that they didn't keep hitting the same spots. That they took.
Well, he took the first 4 or 5 over the right shoulder, and that's when I think Cody probably had to tell MJF as they're doing this, hey, man, you got to do the other side or do lower back or something. I mean, this is, I guess that's the part you can fake is, it's obviously.
Positioning where you got hit.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously, it's storytelling. It's a storyline. It's a men's soap opera. Obviously, these guys, at least I don't think they hate each other in real life. So that's the only part that's fake about it, is that as they're doing this, Cody probably has to tell MJF, hey, get off the right shoulder to go somewhere else. But you can't fake the actual whipping. I mean, that's actual physical pain that you're enduring. Nonetheless, I thought it was a great segment in terms of the storytelling. You're building MJF to be this monster heel. Cody takes the 10. After so many, you had Arn Anderson come out. You had Dustin come out and say, hey, I want to take the rest of Cody's lashes. I think he had 5 left at that point. MJF said, no, that's not how this works. Even though Wardlow got a chance to do one of the lashes, which, whatever. I get it's MJF stipulations, so it was what it was. You had the Young Bucks come out. The thing that I found actually most intriguing about the segment was you had Brandy Rhodes come out, even though, she's doing this Nightmare Family gimmick. At least I think they're still going with it. Maybe not. I don't know. Not to get off topic, they've teased a Nightmare Family disbanding to some degree through. There was a YouTube video that was put out basically with Brandy Rhodes in this psychologist chair, and basically it was like, I think I'm cured. I've got it figured out. Whatever. Between that and I guess Awesome Kong got written out of the storylines because she's finishing the next series of Glow on Netflix or whatever it was. I guess they wrote her out of the storylines. So I don't know if they're still going to go the route of having this Nightmare Family thing. Regardless, I thought it was cool that they brought her into this and made it feel more like, hey, this is real life. This is like this is real. Anyway, so Cody takes the 10 and then takes a low blow at the end, and then MJF and Wardlow hightail it through the crowd. Did you see the fan, whether it was a planted fan or not? I don't think it was, but a fan tried to basically fight MJF in the crowd at the end of the show.
I don't think that was set up at all. That looked, they cut the camera pretty quick too.
They cut the camera back, but then they went back to it.
Well, because I think they were confused, like, what's going on to the standpoint of, what's happening here? Why is this going down? Do we know who that is? But it didn't look like something that was planned at all.
Yeah. They successfully have built MJF to this heel status that, in my opinion, no other wrestler has had since Attitude Era WWF days. I mean, you've had guys that people are like, I like to see this guy get the crap beat out of him in this match or whatever, but never like this, like the status that MJF has now. Again, just in my opinion. So I thought it was good storytelling. I thought they accomplished what they wanted to do. And I think they're off to the races with MJF, period, in AEW. I think they're going the right route. I think they're doing the right thing, although I didn't agree at first. I think they're going the right direction with having Wardlow with him as this, this bodyguard type guy. So we'll see. Just to read a couple comments, Brandon Randall says, honestly, as a fan, I'm sick of watching the Cody MJF saga. The fact that he has to go through that for a match is ridiculous. I don't know. I can see your perspective.
Yeah.
Lights went out. Can you go flip that light? For whatever reason, there it goes. I don't know why there's motion sensor lights in here. That kind of throws stuff off. It's different. I mean, they're doing it for the shock factor. And they're doing it to push MJF as a heel. He also says that was a good promo. Nightmare Collective would have been interesting. Again, yeah, I don't know where they're going with that. They've kind of teased continuing to go with it. They've teased maybe not necessarily dropping it, just putting it on kind of a hiatus or whatever. So, and Brandon also says he will be the greatest heel. I think he's a great heel. I think he's exactly what AEW needs at this point to kind of supplement what the Inner Circle is. I think he's a better heel than the Inner Circle at this point. But I think a lot of that is because fans legit hate MJF. Even though Jericho in particular is supposed to be a heel, fans love him just because of the history he has with wrestling period. So that's AEW. Let's jump into NXT real quick. So I have not watched any of NXT. So that being said, this is going to be kind of a more so Cole going into this and kind of going or giving the descriptions. So we're just going to kind of take this at a high level. So you had Angel Garza and Isaiah Swerve Scott open up the event. You had Angel Garza win it. Well, I mean, was the match any good? Was anything worth?
Well, I mean,
mentioning?
actually, what opened up the event was Matt Riddle and the Pete Dunne promo.
Okay, it doesn't say that on here.
Yeah, and it was really good. Like I told you earlier,
Yep.
if you did not watch the Matt Riddle Pete Dunne promo, it really gave Matt Riddle a moment to shine. I know there was a couple critics who were not happy with it because they feel like Matt Riddle makes everything a joke, and it almost is hard to take him serious. But all I'm going to say is how much fish could Bobby Fish fry if Bobby Fish could fry fish? That's a thing. It was so good. Like, he came out, he engaged the crowd. He did a very, very good face promo, and it was such a good play with Pete Dunne's character, who's kind of like, I don't care, I'm just here to fight, and they played off each other very well. I'm not a big fan of throwing two guys together and making a tag team, especially as making them as dominant as they have been, but
It seems like they're making it work though, and
it was cool. Like, they've done the things they need to do to make them over and make them a contender for Undisputed Era. Whether they win the belts or not, I don't know. I could see it going either way, but it was a really good promo, and it sets up a really good fight for Portland, Oregon takeover. So I would highly, if you did not watch that promo, would highly recommend watching it because I thought it was great. Now, the Angel Garza Isaiah Swerve Scott match, I'll say this: Angel Garza is on a fast track. All right, if you didn't watch Raw, he was on Raw too. He filled in as kind of the Andrade character for Raw.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, hey, we lost a Latino, so let's go get another Latino and put him on Raw right now. But he owned it. And I didn't realize that him and Carrillo were related. They're cousins.
Are they cousins in real life though?
They say they are. I believe it.
Because Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were cousins too.
Looking at them, I could see it. All right, so like it wouldn't shock me if they are, if they aren't, whatever the case may be. He owned it. He owned it on Raw, and then on NXT, he owned it. Like, he is getting over as a heel that is believable. He's talented in the ring. He's doing a really, really good job stepping in when the time comes.
Right.
He is opportunistic, but he's gotten such a great crowd draw from what he's been doing. His match with Isaiah was good. Like, it wasn't. It's what you would expect from a Garza Isaiah Swerve kind of match, but really this is just to set up Garza versus Devlin at Portland, Oregon takeover.
Now it's kind of interesting how they're going to set this up. Now I agree Garza's upside is huge. Garza apparently is going to be booked as a heel though. If you're going to pair him with Vega and Andrade, but Jordan Devlin is also a heel. So do you have a heel versus heel cruiserweight title match, or do you turn
I think so, because here's the thing: people like Garza. If you go to NXT and you watch how he's received on NXT, at least, even though he's heelish, even though he has a heel mentality, people like him. I mean, you don't go on air and propose to your girl on NXT if you're if you're this big bad heel.
That's true. That's a good point.
He's owned it though. They've given him a storyline. They gave him a persona. They said, "Go own this," and he's owned it. I think that match, whether he wins or loses, I honestly could see him losing to Devlin and getting pushed to the main roster. I've read several rumors that they're going to just pull Garza straight up to the main roster.
That wouldn't surprise me either, because
so much Latino things going on the roster right
between that and so Devlin is still NXT UK. They've got Shawn Michaels kind of as the figurehead, so to speak. Maybe not as much so out, in the public, for lack of a better way of putting it, but behind the scenes, he's kind of like NXT UK is kind of like Shawn Michaels' baby. Behind the scenes, he's very big on Jordan Devlin. I've read, so I wouldn't be surprised if they give him a lengthy run, or if this cruiserweight title shot or title reign is just going to be a quick reign for them to push him into a bigger feud, a bigger storyline, a more high profile. What's the word I'm looking for? Just something that's more high profile than just the cruiserweight title. And not to bash the cruiserweight title, but for whatever reason, even though in my opinion they put on some of the best matches, it's just the viewership isn't there, particularly with 205 Live. Cole, I know you replied to this already. I just want to read this on the air. So Mark Cyrus says AEW is telling a story by making Cody fight through different levels to accomplish his goal of getting to MJF. They are booking a storyline and not just writing a segment for a few weeks. 100% agree.
Yeah, that's a good point.
100% agree. That's why I like AEW in terms of, I know we've kind of ripped on them, me especially, about building a storyline in general, not just with the Cody MJF stuff. I think that is to their credit, but also to their detriment, because, and I know we're kind of going back to AEW, but with booking a long-term storyline with the MJF and Cody stuff, it's worked. Kind of going back to what we mentioned earlier with the Dark Order, it will work if you get the right guy to be their leader.
It's just consistency.
Exactly.
You just got to get consistent with it, which it takes time. We got to remember they're only a year old.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's just one of the things that's going to come with having a new company, is you're going to get your constructive criticisms. You're going to have your cynics. But you're also going to have people singing your praises, and that's why I in my opinion, I think AEW is on the right track. I hope that they succeed. I mean, I don't wish for any wrestling organization that's out there now to fail. I don't wish for any of them to fail. I want them to all succeed, because it makes for a better product in terms of people behind the scenes with these organizations to say, okay, we need to make our product better because there are so many people out there competing with us. So, anyway, we'll get back on track here. So then you had Dominik Dijakovic against Killian Dane. This is for the number one contendership for the North American title. Is that right?
Not really.
It's not.
So basically what happens is last week we saw Damian Priest come out and say, I want Keith Lee. I want to fight him. I want the belt.
Okay.
Interrupts Keith Lee. Excuse me.
Don't forget your mute button.
But then Dominik Dijakovic comes out and says, no, if anyone's gonna fight Keith Lee first, it's me. And Dominik gets pushed over on Damian last week. So this week, Killian Dane's, where has he been? We haven't seen him in a few weeks, pretty much since they had that triple threat match a month or so ago.
Right.
He hasn't even been on NXT really. So I think this was just a really good match to put on to highlight Dijakovic and give him what they would consider a actual fight or an actual match that didn't just look like he was fighting, some NXT knockoff in a sense.
Mm-hmm. So
it was a really good match for what they could put on in that kind of a time slot. But then afterwards, Keith Lee comes out from the back as Dijakovic celebrating his win. It says, just talk to William Regal. It's you and me at TakeOver for the belt. They shook hands. They're obviously keeping that manner of respect for each other.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to see a really great match at TakeOver.
I hope so. I mean, I like both of these guys as far as, talking about Keith Lee and Dijakovic. I mean, they've had at least one match that I recall.
Three. They've had three.
They've had three singles matches.
Three singles matches, and they all have been really good.
I was gonna say the one I remember, it was a fantastic match. The other thing I want to say about this is, for whatever reason, I can't get into Killian Dane. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I don't.
You can't deny his talent.
He's good in the ring, but it's I don't want to say he even has a stale personality. It's just I don't know what it is. He just doesn't. There's something missing with him. It's like it's not necessarily you have to put him with a tag team or a stable or anything like that. It's just
The thing
I don't know.
There's a lot of wrestlers that eventually just have to find their thing. You know, Bray Wyatt's the perfect example of that because how many people was he before he got to where he is now?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just got to keep playing around and keep going back to the drawing board until you find something that works. I mean, I'll even say it about Edge. You know, Edge finally found something that worked when he became the rated R superstar because everything else that he did was good or it was all right and you could see the talent, but it never really took off. And so you as a wrestler have to be able to identify when it's not working and reinvent or go back to the drawing board and be willing to take risk on another storyline.
Yep.
And I think that's where Killian Dane is like, obviously we can see that you're talented, but where's the creativity? You're basically every gimmick you've done, you've just been a psycho, chaotic weirdo. Like,
agreed. And maybe that's it. Again, I don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is, but I also have to keep in mind not everybody can be a Chris Jericho. I mean, you know,
right, or given the freedom to be a Chris Jericho. You know what I mean? Chris Jericho has always kind of had his own say in those kind of things from an early point on in his career. And if he didn't, he was out. You know, he was gone. So I don't think Killian Dane has the pull right now to be like, hey, I want to be like Chef Boyardee on NXT. You know, like right. I don't think he could say I want to do this really weird gimmick that I think would get over. I think he's in a place where he's giving the gimmick and saying, hey, make this work.
Right. So for the sake of time, let's speed this up a little bit. So you've got Undisputed Era. They have a little schmoz backstage where, you know, they ask Kushida if they've seen Tommaso Ciampa. He hasn't. He kind of gets beat down. And Bronson Reed, same thing. He gets beat down. And then they do a little thing where they've got Balor and Gargano at the announce table. Or no, sorry.
It was an interview.
They did the split feed thing or whatever. They plugged that.
It was good. It just it seemed like I had no like plan to it. It was almost like they
it's just a time filler.
They literally just kind of said their lines that they wrote down to say to each other, but it wasn't like I know to say this when you say this, and I know like,
exactly.
It was just like we're gonna keep interrupting each other and saying the cool things we wrote down to diss each other.
Yeah. Then they have this match with Casey Catanzaro and Mercedes Martinez. Martinez gets the win, and
the build up.
The only thing I'm confused on is so obviously they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna push Mercedes Martinez, and for good reason. I don't understand why Casey Catanzaro is still with NXT. I mean, they're not doing anything with her. I'm not saying she's not. She's an athlete. She has athletic skills. I'm not trying to diminish that, but she just seems off in the ring or out of place. Like she's.
Well, how much experience is she getting? You know,
that's the point I'm trying to make. Is just like if they're going to feature her on NXT programming, I feel like she just needs to go back to the Performance Center for like a few months or maybe even a year to like work on just work on being in the ring. It's like there are times that she feels like, or at times it looks like she's at home in the ring, and there are other times it's just she just kind of looks bewildered, like she doesn't know what to do.
The problem right now with her is there's not much of a body type like hers in women's wrestling.
Right.
You know, there's Zelina Vega, but how often is she wrestling? So, like, for her to be able to go and fight legitimate matches and be considered like, oh, okay, yeah, you're a contender, you kind of have the Rey Mysterio effect. You got to book her as the underdog that can always overcome. And right now, they just don't book that way. Right now, they book solid women who are just over. And so trying to book that underdog booking is not really on their agenda right now, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and understandable. But all right, we're gonna go into hyperdrive right now because we still got a few things to cover with NXT, and we're about 50 minutes in. So Jordan Devlin's first appearance on NXT, he goes up against Tyler Breeze. Tyler Breeze, there, I'm just kind of
enhancement.
Well,
He's just
exactly,
there to put other people over.
Exactly. I mean, Jordan Devlin gets the win, keeps the cruiserweight title. I don't even know if this was for the belt, was it?
No,
Okay.
it was just a match.
But it's like they go back and forth with both Tyler Breeze and Fandango, either together or individually. It's like it'll seem like they're going to push them or semi-push them, and then it just doesn't happen.
They would be smart to put. I was shocked they weren't in the tag, the Dusty Road Classic.
Yeah,
they would be a smart tag team to put in those kind of things because they are at least over with crowd response and can seem like a legitimate threat. But yeah, I was kind of shocked that I haven't seen Fandango on TV in a while, so I don't know where we're at on him. But
so then we have what is supposed to be a Ripley and Flair thing. We had wonder what that was. Anyway, for you guys can't see, we had somebody pop in the door and then pop back out, and all I saw was their hand. It was kind of weird. Anyway, so we had this what was supposed to be it was supposed to be just Flair and Ripley. Is that right?
I mean, the way it was told to us on Raw is that it was going to be Flair responding to Ripley, but then throughout all of NXT, they kept teasing the Belair and Ripley are going to face off, and then we're going to hear from Flair, and it just seemed like they kind of threw the whole Flair thing in there last minute.
And that's what confused me. It made it sound like they were going to be two separate segments, but then they combined it to one. I wonder if that was done on purpose or if it was done for time.
It was good. I told you I thought it was a really good segment. I just wish we would have actually got an answer.
Yeah, that's true. Inevitably, it was kind of the we are NXT shtick dominance thing, and Flair gets double teamed, and like Cole said, we still don't have an answer as far as what Flair is going to do for WrestleMania.
I think we know.
Yeah, well, I
just think they don't want to ruin the Belair Ripley match just yet because obviously, clearly, Ripley's going to win.
Well, unless they're keeping their options open, they just want to say, well, let's do a triple threat match, which.
Well, they put, like we said, they put Belair over in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Exactly.
So she looked good. I like Belair. I think she's got a personality. I think she kills it in that aspect.
She's coming around for me. At first, I wasn't really on board with her, and I'm not sure why. It's one of those things, again, I can't put my finger on it. And maybe it was just the way NXT was booking her. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's just me, my own reasons. Again, I can't put my finger on it. At first, I wasn't on board with them pushing her, but really ever since the Rumble, I'm just like, you know what? Okay, this could work. And maybe it was because they had Baszler built up so much that anyone, including Ripley, was just kind of like, or not Ripley, Belair, sorry. It didn't seem like anyone was a real legitimate threat to her, except for Rhea Ripley.
Right.
Okay, so then last thing, we've got the Undisputed Era against Riddle, Dunn, and Ciampa. This was set up that night, was it not? It was like Regal.
I mean, obviously it was the plan, but
but Regal set it up and said, "You guys want to fight?"
They just kept attacking each other.
Right.
It was a good match, but it clearly was just to keep the ball rolling on the storylines that were ahead. Cole versus Ciampa and Undisputed Era versus Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne.
And then it sets up the teaser that's been really not talked about a whole lot.
I loved the return.
I thought the return was good. I thought it was. I mean, I kind of even like the fact that the teaser they've been showing, it's not even really been talked about much on social media, much less NXT programming.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I don't even. I didn't know. I was shocked. I'm glad I didn't see the teaser because I probably would have put it together if it was the little video they showed before Velveteen made his appearance. But
it wasn't the first time they've shown this. I know they showed it at least one other time last week, but I don't remember if it was on. I'm assuming I saw it on NXT, but I don't even remember watching NXT last week. So maybe it was on another show. I don't remember. Anyway, inevitably, Velveteen Dream makes his surprise return. The lights come back on. He's already on the top turnbuckle. He does a high cross body on the Undisputed Era, takes them all out at one time. The crowd is going nuts. Velveteen Dream kind of has an a la Rick Rude thing going with his tights because he's got, and obviously they're setting up a feud with Roderick Strong because he's got on his tights, he's got a picture of himself and he has a picture of Roderick Strong's wife. Did you catch that?
I did, and it said, "Call me Maria."
Call me up, Marina.
Yeah.
Or what? Whatever. I can't. I don't even know. Hold on a second.
Here's the couple things about this whole segment. The only thing I didn't like about the segment is that Velveteen could barely stand up when he was fighting all four of them. Like, if you go and watch the actual segment, like, he's literally just falling into them and then punching. Like, there was no, it looked very, very poorly rehearsed. And so, like, it was like him just falling into people and then swinging. And he wasn't really connecting with a moveset or anything like that. That was the only negative to it. I did like it. I do love that they're doing the Roderick Strong Velveteen Dream continuance on their storyline without the belt.
Right. So do you think, okay, I don't want to misunderstand you because, again, I've not watched any of NXT. Whenever you say he couldn't stand, do you mean just because there's so many people in the ring, or do you mean because...
So he interrupts and there's all four Undisputed Era people are in the ring, right? They just got done whooping up on all the other people.
Right.
Here comes the little promo video hits, the lights turn off, turns back on, he's on the turnbuckle, he jumps down on all four of them, and now all four of them are trying to attack him, but he's going to win, right? Because it's his return. So he's going to beat all four of them up to the point that they leave.
Right.
But it was so chaotic of everybody coming at him that he would swing at one and kind of trip over somebody and fall down into that person, start swinging, get back up. When he turns around, they're swinging at him. Go watch it, because I promise you'll see what I'm talking about.
So it sounds like it was like a messy brawl kind of thing.
It just wasn't prepared or planned. It just looked like, hey, you're going to come in and you're going to attack them, and you guys are going to try to look like you're going to fight him, but, just let him win pretty much. So they're all kind of like trying to look like they're going to, but then backing out, like,
right.
And it wasn't a clean brawl.
I got you. So that pretty much covers AEW and NXT. I think for time's sake, we're just going to skip the Raw recap. If you were looking for a Raw recap.
I'm trying to think if there was anything even noteworthy. I mean, we talked about Randy Orton teasing, talking about what happened, but
didn't.
Drew McIntyre went over on Mojo Rawley. Murphy and AOP beat KO.
Yeah.
And the Raiders. Aleister Black gets put over again. Rey Mysterio versus Angel Garza. That was that little.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit. Here's something I wanted to mention, and we'll get to our topic shortly as far as just kind of discussing.
Oh, that's
the best stables in the history of wrestling. We'll get to that in a second. I'm trying to find where I read it. Bear with me just a second, because I literally read this while we've been on the air. I'm trying to get back to the story. So, all right, so here it is. And this was actually posted like 12 hours ago. But it's been reported. So at any given point, obviously WWE is looking to sign anyone and everyone that they can, regardless of where they're at. When I say regardless of where they're at, I'm talking like geographically throughout the world. So I mean, they're looking to sign people that U.S., Canada, Mexico, Japan, Germany, U.K., wherever. So at any given point, they're looking to sign anyone and everyone they can. So I found this really interesting. Triple H has his eye on a few top stars all over the world. Now he is reportedly setting his eyes on a man who many consider as the best wrestler on the planet. It's being reported that Triple H has made it his personal mission, quote unquote, to sign Kazuchika Okada to a WWE contract when his New Japan contract is up. I mean, this isn't a surprise, but so the article doesn't say when his contract is up, but his contract length, details about his contract length is scarce. He was making over $2 million a year, but that was back in 2016. That number was a substantial portion of New Japan's total income. So if he's making $2 million in 2016, and again, this is just kind of a fly off the cuff topic. If he was making $2 million in 2016, what sort of money do you think WWE would have to offer him in order to get him to come to WWE?
I don't know if it's just about money at that point. A lot of it at that point is exposure. Because the thing that WWE can offer him that New Japan can't is TV time that is actually relevant.
Now, I don't know if I 100% agree with it. I see where you're going, but the thing with New Japan is they're getting a lot more American exposure now so they're coming to the US for shows more. Okada is on those shows at times. They've also got New Japan World that is kind of like, New Japan's version of the network, WWE network. They're on the Fight app. I don't think it's a matter of exposure necessarily. It's just getting the people to, subscribe to New Japan World, getting people to those events in the U.S., getting people to download the Fight app and purchase, the pay-per-views. I mentioned to you in Austin that I'm actually going to be watching the New Japan event this Sunday. It won't be live because I think it starts at like 1 a.m. our time. I'm just going to watch it Sunday evening. And a big part of that is, so whenever you download the Fight app, I forgot where I found it or how I got it, to be honest, because I downloaded the Fight app a long time ago. But I had a $25 credit that was waiting for me, and I used it to get the pay-per-view. That's the only reason I'm able to get it, because it's not free. But things like that, I think New Japan needs to kind of leverage whatever and however they can in order to get those American viewers to watch their product. Now, going back to what you said, I don't necessarily think it's about a specific number. I do agree with that, but he's obviously if he's gonna come to the United States, meaning he would have to move here. He would have to do exactly what Nakamura did. Basically, I don't know what his family status is. I don't know if he's got a family or if he's whatever, but he'd have to uproot everything and to come here. If he's making $2 million a year, and that was that's 4 years ago, they're gonna have a hefty price tag on Okada if they're gonna sign him.
Like I said, it just depends. What I mean by exposure, part of it to me is one, the American fan base is not all just huge wrestling fans when it comes to watching WWE.
Agreed.
So there's a whole nother crowd level of people there that will watch because he's on that product, where they wouldn't go watch him on another. But the merch sales, if he was to become over in WWE, merch sales go a really long way for the right superstar. They talk about it all the time. Like a lot of them, if they're heavy merch sellers, like that helps out a ton.
Right.
So if he gets over, his merch is selling, they put a belt on him. Like there's just a lot of things that go into that I think a lot of superstars start to weigh. And, we talk about how you can be popular and stuff on the independent scene. That's all great and well. But there's something about being in WWE when you can hold the belt, when you can be a top seller as far as merch goes, when you can be one of their guys, because every one of those people in Undisputed Era were big on the independent scene. They could have stayed on the independent scene and been fine, made money, everything's great. But there's something about being on NXT where their Undisputed Era stuff's selling, where they're all holding belts, where they're all getting the exposure, they're getting TV time, they're getting more recognition for the things they contribute to the product. So I feel like depending on where he's at in his career, that's where you have to really weigh how much money is he willing to take. Because, he'll probably take a pay cut to come to NXT or to WWE as a whole. But what's there to gain outside of money? Is there popularity? Is there a fan base to grow? Is there more merch to be sold? Is there belts that he could hold that would put him to a main product on WWE? That's where I look at it. Is, do you see yourself being a main contributor to what WWE has to offer, and how does that benefit you?
I think if I'm Okada, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, well, here's what you did with Nakamura. Granted, at least in my opinion, I don't think Nakamura is as good in the ring as Okada is. I think it's almost an apples and oranges kind of thing, because they kind of have, even though they're both Japanese wrestlers, they're different. I don't want to say different styles, but I mean they have different move sets, and I mean that's just the best way I can describe it. Now, if I'm going back to what I was going to say, if I'm Okada, if I'm going to come to the U.S. and work for a company here in the U.S., I would almost lean towards going to AEW, and here's why. If I'm Okada, I'm going to look at it from the perspective of okay, you've got Jericho and Moxley that work here, but you let them come to New Japan. If I'm Okada, maybe maybe look at it from this perspective. Maybe I stay with New Japan, but also say I want the freedom to be able to work for AEW. Or if I'm going to work for AEW, I want the freedom to go back to New Japan and work, stuff like that. And maybe that would bridge the gap as far as the AEW New Japan, whatever is going on behind the scenes, and they haven't officially had this partnership developed. The reason I don't think you go to WWE if you're Okada is because I don't think, number one, I don't think he wants to go to NXT. I don't think he deserves to go to NXT. Now, granted, he'd probably have the best matches with people in NXT. I think that's just going to, kind of like you said, if he's wanting to get a fan base, if he wants to have an audience watch him, it's not NXT, unfortunately, because Dynamite's been beating them in the ratings for the last few weeks. And actually, all but maybe 1 or 2 weeks, Dynamite's had him beat in the ratings. I think if you're going to come to WWE, if you're Okada, you're not taking a pay cut. If anything, you're getting a hefty raise. And I also think you need to be going directly to Raw or SmackDown. Now, I think I still struggle with the idea of Okada in WWE, just with the way WWE is currently in terms of storylines, in terms of booking, stuff like that. I just don't think he's a fit for WWE.
No, there's something to be said about being a Triple H guy, though, as well. I think when you notice when Triple H takes a personal investment in you, there's something to be said about that. You look at the guys that Triple H has personally been invested with, like Aleister Black, like Ricochet, some of these guys who are fast-tracked, Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens. They love those guys, and you see where they sit on the main card now. They did do a little stint in NXT, some of them maybe longer than the other, but there's something to be said about being a Triple H guy. So if Triple H is interested in him and has made it his personal mission to sign him, that means Triple H has a plan for him. And Triple H isn't going to pitch some bull crap, just come to NXT because it's going to be better for you. He's got everything detailed, lined out. Here's how we're going to get you over. Sign.
I hope so. But the thing I'm going back to, and we have actually not mentioned this, is I read this past week that once Vince kind of, whether he lets go of the reins partially or altogether, whenever that may be, I don't know if it's going to be when the XFL starts. Actually, that starts later this month. Or inevitably he still kind of has his hand on it until, unfortunately, he has to pass away eventually. We all do. I don't know how or when it's going to happen, but inevitably I've read that Triple H is not going to be the one taking over everything. It's going to be Shane. From what people have said behind the scenes, Triple H is not next in line to take over. It's going to be Shane. So unless something changes and he really gets complete authority, unless he's the current Vince, once Vince is out of the picture,
So I've read the opposite. I've read that Stephanie is actually the one in line to take it, and that Triple H would oversee.
Well, I've read all three. I've read that Triple H is supposed to. I've read that Stephanie is supposed to. I've most recently read that Shane is supposed to. So it's kind of a what-if scenario. But unless it's one of those things that Triple H is guaranteed to be the Vince once Vince is out of the picture, I don't know. Again, I'm speaking as if I'm Okada. I don't know if I want to go that route without knowing for sure how they're going to push me, what programs they're going to put me in, what the storylines are going to look like, that sort of thing.
Right.
So, we'll kind of we'll kind of put a bow on our recap with that. I just wanted to mention a couple things. So, all of our shows are archived on our Facebook page. You can go back and watch any of them at any time. We're actually on episode 8, so you can go watch episodes 1 through 8 on our Facebook page. You can also check us out on YouTube. Go to www.goingbroadwaypodcast.com/YouTube. You can also check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on Google Play. You can check us out on lineupmedia.fm. You can also check us out on the Lineup channel by downloading our app. It's called Yo Radio. You can also access that via the App Store or Google Play. Again, that's on the Lineup channel. We also encourage you to check out the other music stations that are on Yo Radio. A lot of other music genre stations on there. You can check out news, sports, anything and everything you can think of. Again, that's yoradio.com. You can download that via the App Store, Google Play, or go to yoradio.com. A couple of other quick things. So we are, I think our Facebook page is about at 315 likes at this point. So we appreciate your guys' support. We're going to do another t-shirt giveaway once we hit 500 likes, and then we're going to give away that free belt at 1,000 likes. I've posted that in a couple of different videos previously, so check those out. Our shirts are also for sale. If you're interested in buying one, there's a photo of all of our available shirts and colors. I'm actually wearing one today. This is our hoodie. All of them have the same logo on it, but depending on the color of the shirt, the text might be different colors. If you're interested in buying one, just shoot me a PM and I'll hook you up with one. Yeah, I think that's all I got. I'm used to having my little read sheet here, but it was with my laptop, and I don't have my laptop because I left that at home. So I'm kind of just flying off the cuff with our promotional stuff. And because I'm flying off the cuff with our promotional stuff, I forgot to do Lord Alfred Hayes. One of these days, I'm going to remember.
I'm disappointed.
I'm going to remember to play every single soundbite at some point.
You were on the ball today.
I was. I started off great, and then I dropped the ball. So Lord Alfred Hayes will catch you next week. All right, so let's talk about wrestling stables for a little bit. We're actually running long on time, so we're probably only going to talk about this for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. You know what? I don't think we will. I think we might save this because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about as far as wrestling stables. So I'll tell you what. Because Mondays are kind of primarily our topic discussion day because there's not as much wrestling content that happens between our Thursday and Monday show, let's save that. And I think we might wrap it up for today.
Well, since we have 5 minutes to spare, there's one thing about Raw that we did not talk about.
Go for it.
So let's share this. What are your thoughts about Ricochet being the number one contender now for Brock Lesnar? I know it's for Super Showdown. I know it's pretty clear he's going to lose. But thoughts on what kind of match they're going to put on? What does that look like? Was this a smart booking? Does this hurt Ricochet? I want to see what you kind of think on that booking.
I'm kind of indifferent on it, to be completely honest. I mean, like you said, it's pretty clear that they're not going to put the belt on Ricochet. They're saving for a Lesnar-McIntyre match at WrestleMania. I'm not sure if WWE's mentality of this is it could be one of two things or both. It could be, all right, well, we're going to put Lesnar on this card just for the star factor. It could be because fans have been upset and clamoring over the fact that, well, Lesnar only works so many dates per year. Now, to Lesnar's credit, I say this jokingly but seriously as well, he's been on every single Raw in 2020 so far. Good for him.
Not wrestling.
Well, no, but
he's been there.
He's been there.
That's a start.
So I don't know. I think they have him on the card almost just by, I don't want to say default or to time, to fill time, but inevitably, I think that's just what it's going to become. I don't expect it to be more than a 7 or 8 minute match. I think it's going to be what it is. It's going to be like a Lesnar tossing around a light heavyweight.
So you don't think it was going to be like the AJ Styles match that we got with him, or the Daniel Bryan match that we got with him?
I don't think so, just because I would be surprised if it was. I'd be pleasantly surprised if it is. I just don't. I think it's going to be more like the Lesnar Balor match that we had. Was that Survivor Series, or when was that?
I mean, it was a while ago.
I just don't remember what pay-per-view it was. I don't think it was Survivor Series, because Lesnar's Survivor Series matches were with Styles and then with Bryan. Either way.
Oh, one of those are Clash of Champions matches, actually.
Which one?
The AJ Styles and the Daniel Bryan were at Clash of Champions.
Were they?
Because they were both the champion at the time.
You're right. Yeah, I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah.
Finn
Balor might have fought him at Survivor Series, though. That would have made sense.
Let me look.
But
that was... Oh, that was Royal Rumble last year.
Oh, you're right, because he wasn't in the Rumble match.
Yep.
Balor wasn't.
Okay. My mistake. Yeah, I don't know. I do hope it's a good match. We all know Lesnar's going to win. We all know he's going to keep the belt. I think maybe, and they probably booked this ahead of time, because they had Ricochet do the low blow on Lesnar in the Rumble, which set up McIntyre eliminating him. They kind of teased that ahead of time, which I commend WWE for that, because that's good booking. I think at least what went through my mind is, okay, Ricochet at least played a part in Lesnar getting eliminated, so they've got to do something with it. So that's what they're doing. I don't know. I really hope they put on a decent match, even though we know who's going to win. I just don't see it.
Does this hurt Ricochet? Does the booking hurt him?
I don't think so.
Because they kind of have him lost in limbo, which I hate, because I love Ricochet, and I think he's a future big part of what they have planned there at WWE. But
yeah, I don't think this hurts Ricochet. I think it would if they continue to put him in, I don't want to say necessarily specific matches like this, but if they continue to book him in this sort of way that is, hey, we're going to put him in the title picture, but everyone knows he's not going to win.
Kofi Kingston.
Kind of exactly. That's what I was going to kind of equate it to. If they keep doing this with him, and I mean, this is a big what if at this point, and I don't know how long his contract is, but I know he's got some history with the guys that are in AEW, particularly the Young Bucks, particularly Cody to some degree. Mostly, I mean, he's had a lot of matches with the Young Bucks back when they were in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. So I could see him ending up in AEW if they continue to put him in matches like this. But, I mean, I could see WWE offering him big money and having him stay. But, again, I don't know how long his contract is. We could be talking 2, 3, 4 years from now, so who knows. But I've used this expression once already today, but I think we're going to put a bow on this show, and then we'll save our Wrestling Stables topic for Monday. We'll also talk about the New Japan show on Sunday. We'll talk about that a little on Monday. We'll talk a little SmackDown on Friday, or this upcoming Friday, or tomorrow's SmackDown, this upcoming Monday. And we'll be back to our normal time at 9 a.m. Central Time. We actually started the show a little later because the pre-sale for AEW Dynamite here in the St. Louis area went live today at 9, so I wanted to jump on that and make sure I got my ticket, and I did, so we're good there, because I'm sure everyone out there in podcast/Facebook land was worried about that. Not really. Any final thoughts?
Just excited to see where we're headed with the upcoming pay-per-views. I think Portland TakeOver is looking good. I think Revolution is looking good. So excited to see what this month holds.
I agree. It's going to be good. So for Alex, myself, for Cole, we will see you on Monday.
And so, goodbye. And good night. Bye.
This podcast was a presentation of the Lineup Media.